Today we're going to talk about the political system in Paraguay, the different parties, the party that's in charge right now, the direction the country is heading. And Enzo Melgarejo is going to explain to us everything about it. Please tell us, first of all, what party or parties are currently in charge of the parliament in Paraguay?
In the parliament, there's many parties, but the one currently with the majority, that means it doesn't need to form any sort of coalition with any parties. The National Republic Association, or ANR, or Partido Colorado in Spanish. It's a party that's been founded of over 100 years ago. It's more in line, I would say, with the Republican Party of the United States. It has similar ideas. For example, it's very pro-family, very pro-capitalist, low taxing, little government intervention, very conservative values overall. And it's the party that's been governing Paraguay for the last 76, 78 years, I think.
Now, one thing that you said, which I love to hear, is conservative. And we talked in another video how, just talking about taxes, because you said it's very much focused on capitalism, and talking about taxes, it's amazing to see here that you can deduct all your expenses from your taxable income in Paraguay, and whatever you have left at the end of the month, that's the money you would pay your taxes on. And that works very well for average people, because they have a lot to deduct and they have very little money left over at the end of the month, right? So whatever is left over is the money you're going to pay taxes on. Now, okay, you've defined now the party that's in charge. So it's not really like a two-party system. It's more like a one-party system, right? So there's very little interference from outside, which is a political system that works very well. In Singapore, it's similar. It's not a democracy either. It's very authoritarian. And the good thing about authoritarian political systems is that they can push any legislation through that they can see fit, because there's very little interference from outside. So it's good in that sense. Another jurisdiction or country like that is the United Arab Emirates, where the system is the system of a monarchy. Obviously, it's not an ancient type of monarchy, but it's like a modern day, like a 21st century monarchy system, which is great because you can push through whatever you see fit. Another example would be Saudi Arabia, where they can say, hey, this is the policy we have in place, and there's no deviating from it because there's no interference, right? Whereas in the US, for instance, a lot of what will be put in place going forward during the Trump administration is probably going to get reversed during the next democratic change. So that's been the problem in the US. There's always been a constant change, and so the policies are not constant. And for instance, for the national budget, it has to pass the House and the Senate. That's real important that all parties agree on the budget. For instance, when Trump was in office, he ran on a very important promise that he was going to build the wall. But guess what? The wall didn't get built because the two parties could not agree on the budget. The wall, I believe, is now just about 10% finished, and the 10% was completed during a 4-year presidency. Now, given this speed, it would take decades to complete the wall because Republicans and Democrats, they never agree on anything, so nothing gets done. You can run on the best intentions, but if you can't agree with the other party that adds an equal amount of contribution, you're just not going to get anything done. That's interesting. Another thing that you talked with me about in the car before is that the Democrats in Paraguay haven't been in charge for decades.
So there's other traditional party, apart from ANR, there's called PLRA, Partido Liberal Radical Auténtico, or Radical Liberal Party, Authentic Party. And it's just a party that hasn't been able to get any sort of movement going for the last 75 years. They haven't been able to win an election. And yeah, this last election was pretty much the same. They did a coalition of all the opposition together, even including elements from the far extreme left, I would say. And still, so the Conservative Party got the biggest democratic win in the history of our country. So I think that just shows what Paraguayans really want is a government that stays out of their business, that stays out of their pocket, and most of all, that stays out of their family.
I like what you've pointed out about them not even having the slightest of chances to get elected. In Mexico, we had now seen a drastic shift in politics where left-wing party got elected, right?
Yeah.
And you see this in some other Latin American countries too, but in Paraguay it just doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah.
It seems to be more stable, and like you said, it's more conservative, and I think that's a good thing because people are concerned about the political situation here in it potentially collapsing. So you're saying that that's not going to happen because the majority of voters will still choose conservatism all the time, and Paraguay, in my opinion, is one of the most conservative countries that I've ever been to. And I've been to a lot of countries. And even in Asia, wokeness is rising in a lot of places like the Philippines and Thailand. It's indoctrinated pretty much, but here it's not. And we talked about, you talked to me about the influence, actually the lack of influence teachers have in schools when it comes to wokeness. It's not being taught in school, right? Wokeness is absent in Paraguayan schools. Do you want to talk a little bit about that maybe?
Well, in all honesty, I think if there is going to be a woke teacher, that will probably be the quickest fire teacher in history, in this country at least. I don't know, it's just ingrained since we're little kids to us Paraguayans that one thing is one thing and the other is the other, and we have a clear definition of what roles we are supposed to do. And I think no one is going to be able to change that with just mere words. And I don't know. That's just my opinion. I don't think it's going to be easily changeable. Not in decades, at least. And I think that's because of like the family values that have been imparted for generations and generations. I don't know. I think it's because of that.
It's interesting to also hear your story about being abroad and just seeing how different the schooling system operates in a country like Italy. Whereas in Paraguay, despite of us being in the 21st century, it is not anything like it is in Italy. And you have highlighted this in a previous video and also when we talked privately. And so I think that's pretty motivating for someone looking to come here and escape all the nonsense that's being forced on us. In places like Italy or in Austria and Germany, wherever you may live, or even in the United States, where political correctness is not just expected, but it is mandated. Whereas here in Paraguay, it's not the case. And once you come here, it's kind of hard to leave this place if conservatism is what you want. And you come here, whenever you come here, 2025, 2028. And I don't think it's going to change here. I don't see a pattern there. And we will see what the government will do in terms of residence permits and whether they will make it harder for people to come here. But so far so good, I'd say. Yeah, I appreciate your input on this. And if you guys are interested in learning more about how you can move to Paraguay, obtain residency, please check out our channel. You're welcome to book a consultation with me personally. You should see a link displayed right on the screen. Click on that. Actually visit that link and book a consultation with me, and I'd be very happy to talk with you about relocating to Paraguay. Thank you so much. We appreciate your attendance, and we see you on the next video.